My name is Mirrah Foulkes and my film's called Dumpy Goes to the Big Smoke. The idea was born out of a location. I have a friend in Melbourne, a great filmmaker called Amiel Wilson, and he said to me one day, I've just bought this warehouse in Melbourne, you should come and check it out. And in my head, you know, I had this kind of idea of this beautiful, old school, dark warehouse kind of space that he was living in. But when I got there, actually, it was just a huge industrial shed made out of corrugated iron. And then in the middle of the shed, because it was winter in Melbourne, it was freezing cold, he'd put this old, like, busted up caravan. And so the caravan was kind of just sitting in this giant space, and there was just this kind of power cord running out the window and plugged into the side of the wall. And I just remember thinking that that was a great image.
Oi, Dumpy, wake up. Wake up. Have you fed the pussycats?
I kind of knew exactly what I wanted with casting, and I knew also, because it was my first film, I just really wanted to support myself by casting people I knew were great and were going to give me great stuff, and I wasn't going to have to work too hard in that respect. So Anthony, who plays Dumpy, I'd worked with before, and I just think he's fantastic at everything he does. Eden, who plays the handsome gentleman caller, I'd also worked with before, and he'd been doing a lot of theatre and not much sort of film stuff, and I just felt like he was so underutilised on screen. He's got such a great face. And then Dumpy was a little bit trickier because I had a really strong idea of the kind of energy that I needed and the sort of feeling that I needed from that actor, but I didn't know anyone that kind of fitted that quite right. And then a friend read the script and introduced me to Emily, and as soon as before I'd even spoken to her, I knew that she was right. And she was doing a lot of theatre work in Melbourne, a lot of kind of clowning work, and I was really interested in how she could kind of bring that element of her work onto screen, and she was able to adapt really beautifully, and I felt like her performance was just perfectly nuanced, and her vibe and her energy was really right for that character. So yeah, I was lucky, I guess, to find her. So it was such a small, quick, loose kind of shoot. And the cats was always going to be the biggest obstacle for us, because everything else was really contained. It was really simple. It was 3 actors on what essentially felt like a stage. So the cats was always going to be the struggle. And then we just met this extraordinary cat woman called Roz, and no one was getting paid. And Roz was like, sure, how many cats do you want? I'll bring you as many cats as you. She was just so lovely, and bought a car full of cats, and we only had the cats for 1 day, so we had to kind of, the shoot was only a day and a half, but we kind of had to shoot around the cats a little bit. And it was good because all the cats knew each other, so we weren't putting cats in with each other that were going to kind of freak out. And they were pretty calm, they were pretty great, and we just tried to really shoot as much as we could and let them do whatever they were going to do without trying to wrangle them. I mean, cats are not really wrangleable in the way that dogs are, so we just tried to kind of keep it loose and let them dictate what they were going to do. And yeah, there were a couple of perfect moments where they kind of, something just happened in a certain take and it just felt kind of right to include that. I wanted to play everything as kind of untheatrical as possible, because it was important to me that it didn't feel like a play. I wanted the performances to feel nuanced and real, and yeah, it was like kind of playing against that set in a way.
What you gonna do in the city?
Cat grooming.
Eh?
I'm gonna open a cat grooming business. Do all kinds of cats. Do Persians and Abyssinians, ragdolls, do Norwegian forest cats, all kinds.
You gonna do dogs?
No.
So it screened at Sydney Film Festival as part of the Dendy Awards, and then in Melbourne Film Festival as part of the Accelerator program. And that was amazing for me because I didn't kind of anticipate it would have a big festival journey. It didn't feel like that kind of film. It just felt like this little cinematic gesture. And it screened really well. We won the Ruben Mamoulian Award for Best Director at Sydney. We won Best Director at Flickerfest, which is a great shorts festival in Bondi. And then it screened at a few festivals in the US, at Aspen, where we got a Best Emerging Filmmaker Award, Marfa Film Festival, and I think it's about to screen at Milwaukee. It was really nice to see that people were responding to the film and people kind of were having good reaction to it, and that felt great. That felt more than what I had expected, especially in the beginning of post when I actually felt like there was no point kind of finishing it.